Welcome to GAPS Journaling, how to track your experience, spot patterns, and accelerate your progress on the GAPS Nutritional Protocol. Today you'll learn why journaling matters, what and how to track, and about interpreting your data. The personal beliefs, opinions, philosophies, and/or views shared in this presentation are solely based upon my own GAPS experience and may not align with nor reflect the content in Dr. Natasha's GAPS books, podcasts, blog posts, social media posts, or training programs. Who am I and why do I want to talk to you about journaling for the GAPS Nutritional Protocol? My name is Jennifer Scribner, and I'm a functional nutritional therapy practitioner at Body Wisdom Nutrition. I became a certified GAPS practitioner in 2011 and have focused my practice on the GAPS protocol since that time, working with one-on-one clients, teaching classes, and writing for my blog. I'm also the author of From Mac and Cheese to Veggies Please and the Navigating GAPS Daily Journal, which we'll talk more about later in this presentation. I want to start today by talking about what journaling for GAPS or any dietary approach is and what it's not. Journaling is a way to track trends and connections, available in a variety of modalities and tools, different for everyone, and shows you how to customize the GAPS protocol for you. Journaling is not one size fits all, a diary meant to overwhelm you or give you one more thing to do, or a failure tracker. Here are some of the reasons why I find journaling during the GAPS protocol so useful. We are human. We have multiple people in the family sometimes. Tracking trends and finding your big wins. Sharing data with your GAPS practitioner or coach. An opportunity for a review process, and celebrating along the way. And I'll elaborate on each of these areas in a moment. I also want to note times that journaling may not be appropriate. I don't recommend journaling for people who have a history of an eating disorder, including those who may be triggered by strict childhood food rules, or if journaling is causing you to overanalyze or feel frozen. And I think it's healthy to take a break from journaling when you're traveling or away from the normal, when you're overwhelmed for a period of time, or when you're in a state of strong trust or intuition. Diving into why we journal on GAPS because we're human. We often start out with GAPS brain, aka brain fog, poor memory, or attention span. There's also a difference between what we actively recall versus the memories that are held in our bodies. The body remembers everything, but looking back on notes can help us recall the details when an odd body sensation arises. Our active recall is often accurate for only 1 to 3 days. How often do we talk about events and say, that was a couple of weeks ago, or months, or I have no idea what we ate for dinner last Thursday? The body is also always finding a new level of homeostasis or adjustment to the current conditions, and it's easy to overlook everything that has changed over time. We have a reward-based psyche, which we can use to our advantage when we review our notes and see progress. And on the flip side, we also have a bias towards negativity and tend to view the way things are now as the way they've always been, so we forget about the good progress. For example, a family came to me with watery diarrhea as their urgent concern for their child. And when that was no longer happening a month later, they were very focused on how bad their child's eczema continued to be. They had completely forgotten about this huge win when it came to stool, and reviewing their progress tracking reminded them so we could take a moment to celebrate. If you're working with multiple family members, you'll have a hard time recalling which symptoms each person experienced on any given day, or what they ate, or if they took their cod liver oil, etc. The details get muddled, especially when different family members are making progress at different rates. We'll talk more about tracking tools later, but do plan to choose your method in order to keep it manageable. You might use the family journal from Amy Mahali called My Daily Insights, a Mom's Health Journal, spreadsheets, different colored pens assigned to each person, or a responsibility chart style tracking. With ongoing journaling during the GAPS protocol, you'll be able to review the trends and start to see patterns that will help you determine when to move forward with new foods, supplements that may be useful, and which detox activities or lifestyle habits are worth your time. You'll note your big wins, which are the foods, supplements, or activities that make the biggest difference to you, which leads you to know where to focus your attention for quicker progress or what to prioritize in those times that you just can't keep the whole protocol going. What will you track? Food, ferments, detox activities, lifestyle habits, supplements, lunar and menstrual cycles. And as you track those, make notes about your symptoms or resilience. When we reach a review or reflection period, you'll look back to make connections and unexpected patterns will materialize. I also want to note what we generally don't track during the GAPS protocol, which is calories, macros, unless you're on a ketogenic version of GAPS, and weight loss or weight gain, unless it's an area of serious health concern. How do we track these trends to spot patterns? First, we choose a tool, which will be the best journaling style for you. Then decide how often you're committing to recording the data. Is it jotting things down all day long, writing a summary at the end of each day, or creating a weekly progress snapshot of how you feel and what you recall? Whichever you choose, build it into your life as a habit. That may mean carrying a paper journal with you, entering things into a phone app or spreadsheet at set times each day, or adding an alarm to your phone or calendar so that it isn't overlooked. Additionally, you'll need to set aside time for review and reflection at least every month, if not weekly. It does take time to spot the trends, so when you're a beginner, you may make notes for a month or 6 weeks before looking back, but take a moment to add a review reminder time to your calendar when you get started. Otherwise, 6 months may pass, and while you've got lots of data, you've missed the opportunities to use it to speed things up. There are many tools that you can use for tracking. Choose the type that's easiest or most natural for you to use. There's not one correct way. If you're someone who loves spreadsheets or online documents, go with that. They're easy for search in your reviews. Spreadsheets can allow for separate tabs or color coding for different family members too. You can also use a physical or digital planner or calendar as a place to make notes. The date's already on there, and maybe even the moon phase. Physical journals are popular, whether they be a blank notebook or one of the pre-formatted like the Navigating GAPS Daily Journal that I created with myself and my clients. And if you're an app lover or prefer digital, you might choose a food tracking app or a note-taking app. If you're unsure what you'll stick with, just pick one type and give it a trial for a week or two. You can always change. This is in service of you. Reviews and time for reflection is where the process gets interesting. I encourage you to engage with curiosity, to find clarity, and commit to a certain frequency in order to overcome that negativity bias and tap into your reward-based psyche. Approach your data with curiosity like you're reviewing a science experiment as an outsider. You're going to notice some things that will make you say, aha, or I wonder. And in these moments of clarity or deeper curiosity, you'll come up with new experiments to run and track to further refine what works best for your body or your family. And there needs to be some frequency of review to make this worthwhile. So will you look back weekly, monthly, quarterly, maybe with the seasons change, or annually, whether that be on the calendar or a birthday or some other notable time? I recommend a combination of at least monthly snapshots with an annual check-in to write a few paragraphs of a stream of consciousness type journal where you note everything about how you feel and what you're doing now. Then flip back through your other more frequent reviews to remind yourself of how much has truly changed. Spotting trends. Some things are going to be obvious, like increasing probiotics or fermented foods leading to an eczema flare, and it happens every time. Easy. Or maybe you've been prone to constipation, but you see that you have perfect bowel movements 4 days a week, and then notice that those are the same 4 days where you had meat stock with every single meal, or the 4 days you took detox baths. Other things may be less obvious. Say you get headaches every so often and you've written that down. When you look back at those days and the day that came before them, you note that each headache was preceded by eating pork chops the night before. Is it the pork that you're reacting to, the cooking method, some seasoning? Now, this is a totally made up example. I don't actually know anyone who has headaches after pork chops, but for the sake of our example, pork chops may be your favorite food and the headache is worth it. Or maybe you only eat them on a certain day when having a headache is less of a big deal. Or maybe you wonder if you're having trouble digesting the pork fat and you wonder if combining the pork chop with beet kvass or digestive enzymes will prevent the headache. Or maybe doing a coffee enema the next day would head off the headache. In other cases, you may notice that a certain symptom is flared up around the new or full moon or your menstrual cycle. Or you may notice that you have an amazing bowel movement on day 3 of your bleed cycle, but you're always constipated 2 days before you start bleeding. Big wins are my favorite thing about the journaling process. These are the foods, activities, and habits that make the biggest difference for you. They're what you can double down on or what you prioritize doing when you're traveling or super busy and can't do all the GAPS things. On the previous slide, I gave the example of a perfect bowel movement with meat stock every meal or the days that detox baths were taken. Either of those things are examples of big wins. You might find that your anxiety is totally manageable when you take a detox bath each night, or your cognition is much clearer every morning when you go outside and watch the sunrise, or that a certain supplement keeps bloating at bay, helps you sleep, or keeps your histamine in check. How do you find the big wins? By experimenting with everything, making notes, and reviewing. You're going to find what foods are most supportive for you, what detox activities help you the most, and which lifestyle habits provide the best reward for your effort. Supporting trends. Finding the trends and patterns is the first piece, but supporting them is where you can really soften the ups and downs of your symptoms, die off, detox reactions, and more. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that not everything can be smoothed over. Us Gapsters are going to go through some rough moments. Reading the GAPS books and truly understanding what's shifting internally will help you ride the waves of so many changes. It's really important to give yourself the time, rest, pleasure, and areas of focus outside of your health condition. Turnarounds on GAPS don't usually happen overnight. Deep nourishing, the birth of new cells, and the rebuilding of healthy gut flora are an additive process. So slow and steady is what gives you the permanent results you're looking for. Supporting trends is a way to keep your life manageable so you can stick with GAPS for the duration. This is a marathon, not a quick fix. When you notice positive trends and big wins, take a moment to zoom out and see how you can bring more of those benefits into your life. Maybe the kid's bedtime needs to be moved up in order to accommodate baths every single night. Maybe you need to wrap up a volunteer commitment or social activity in order to be in bed by 9:30 every night because you've noted that your brain only fires on all cylinders when you get to sleep early. On the flip side, if you have intense PMS symptoms, you might block out time on your calendar for castor oil packs, watching funny movies, and sipping extra beet kvass during those days. In my experience, honoring my body's needs for rest rather than pushing through gets me back to my best energy and mental functioning much quicker. And another example might be recognizing that your mood and energy crash when you skip lunch or have a late dinner, and you can then create a plan so that doesn't happen. Running experiments. Experiments are my second favorite part of the GAPS journaling process. I really geek out on coming up with these and collecting new data. In some of the examples I've shared today, I've offered ideas for running experiments, and the ideas will be endless. If sleep is an issue for you, you may throw everything at it, or you might alternate through multiple ideas, trying something new each week. It's up to you. But here are some experiments you might run. Nightly baths. Does the bath additive matter? Going for a walk at sunset each night. Turning off all screens and devices 2 hours before bed. Wearing blue light blocking glasses. Changing out your light bulbs to all red after dark. Eating dinner earlier. A stretching routine. Listening to a guided relaxation to wind down. Taking a supplement to support sleep. Installing blackout curtains. I could go on and on with ideas for this. You'll make educated guesses based on the trends and big wins that you note and follow your own hunches. You won't know unless you try, so don't ruminate on what might happen. Clarity comes from action, not thought. And if you've run out of ideas or motivation and you're working with a GAPS practitioner, coach, or another healthcare practitioner, discuss your data with them and ask if they have ideas for you. When you're running experiments involving new foods or supplements, increases of fermented foods or probiotics, or specific detox activities like juicing or enemas, go slowly. Make detailed notes and don't change too much at once or you won't know which thing led to what result. If there's one thing that GAPS has taught me over and over, it's that slow and steady is what leads to lasting results. All right, let's talk about celebration because it's often overlooked. Most of the conversations I have with clients about celebration are when they're fretting over what food they'll eat at other people's parties. And that's not the kind of celebration I'm talking about right now. This is about how you deserve to be celebrated. And GAPS is not easy, and it's often thankless when we're doing it with our kids or when the people that are close to us just don't get it. So you're going to have to celebrate yourself. What are non food things that are rewarding to you? Do you need to reorient your mindset about rewards and celebration? Which milestones in your health are you looking forward to celebrating? There are big and little celebrations you might have. Maybe you've perfected meat stock and you high five your spouse. Maybe you kept your commitment to taking a bath every night this week and you write a celebratory note in your journal about how you're learning to take loving care of yourself. Maybe you've come off of a medication after years and years and you want to plan a party with everyone in your life who supported you along the way and believed you could do it. Maybe your kid with sensory issues is able to cross the street and visit the neighbor kids by himself for the first time. Acknowledge these things. They matter. And also choose who you'll celebrate with, if anyone. Celebrate the way that lights you up, not the way that others expect. So for right now, answer this question. What feels like celebration to you? Maybe it's dancing around the kitchen, taking a day away for some time in nature, receiving body work, going to a concert, buying yourself a bouquet of flowers, taking an arts or crafts class, or renting a cabin at a lake where you can make a GAPS family getaway. If you need to take an intermission, this is a good time to hit pause, as the following slides are where we'll get into the details of what information you might include in your journaling with lots of examples and ideas. I'll be breaking this down in the order of the Navigating GAPS daily journal that I developed with my clients. It includes 90 days of daily tracking pages with 30-day reviews interspersed for your look backs or your snapshot kind of updates. If you have a copy already, follow along. If you'd like to order a copy, it's available from my website as a spiral bound book or a PDF that you can print at home. And it's also available worldwide as a paperback book on Amazon. The information that follows does not require that you use the Navigating GAPS journaling system, though. The examples are applicable to whatever system suits you and will inspire you to refine your own process or give you insights on what you'll track and how you might organize it. Start with your goals, symptoms ratings, or a snapshot of where you are now. You'll be amazed at what's changed when you flip back in several months. So many things get forgotten when they improve. In the Navigating GAPS journal, there's a table where you will rate things today, and then you'll come back to this page at the end of the 90 days to list your updated ratings. You can add symptoms that are specific to your situation, then do a little free writing about how you feel now, what you're capable of or limited by, including physical, psychological, neurological, immune system, energy level, whatever else stands out for you. This is the full view of the Navigating GAPS daily journal pages, and in the next several slides, I'll highlight each of these sections so you can see them up close. I'm going to give you loads of possibilities. Use the ones that are the most pertinent to your situation or intrigue you to track and experiment with. Remember that this can evolve too. You may focus on different areas and different phases of your health journey, and you can always come back to this video for a refresher if you decide to alter or update your process. Start with the basic date and day of the week and what time you woke up. Jot down any specifics you want to recall, especially if sleep is an issue for you. This can include interruptions from kids, pets, bed partner snoring or noises. You may list how many times or what time you got up to use the bathroom. If you laid awake or got up to read or meditate or have a snack, note that. And also note if you felt a certain way when you woke, whether that's happy, foggy, grumpy, or whatever. Did you lay in bed for a certain amount of time before getting up? Did you snuggle with your pet or read in bed in the morning or look at your phone first thing? Whatever may be useful or pertinent to you. Healing foods. In the Navigating GAPS daily journal, I made a checkbox section so you have an at-a-glance view to quickly add up how many days you included the basic foods we focus on, like meat stock, different fermented foods, and organ meats, with a couple write-in areas. In this example, lemon water is written in. Write-ins are useful if you have a food you're focusing on. Other examples may be specific fats that you're aiming to include, like lard or coconut oil, or if you're wanting to include fish twice a week, you can write that in to review how often you're really meeting that goal. Again, what's pertinent to you? Lifestyle. This is the most flexible section as there are tons of things that you might be including in your healing protocol. Again, I included a checkbox section with the things I most often recommend to clients with space for additional write ins. You can check the box, and if it's useful to you, make a note next to any area, like how long of a walk outdoors you took or spent sunbathing, or if your morning light was sun, clouds, or rain. Maybe how long you retained your coffee enema, or a specific type of movement or exercise you did that day, like yoga or Qigong or cycling or a particular meditation that you did. Include the level of detail that you care to review. There is a separate section for our detox baths coming up, so we'll talk about that there. But other things you might write in here are getting a massage or acupuncture or chiropractic adjustment, going to therapy, a counseling session, or a 12-step meeting, oil pulling or using a neti pot for dental or sinus issues, spending time barefoot grounding, red light therapy devices, cold shower or cold plunge, laying on a biomat or another PEMF device, bioresonance or sound healing. This list could be endless, so again, what's pertinent to you? Later on, you might notice a particularly great or poor thing that day or the next day, and maybe you'll see an association, like your sleep is deeper the day after you get acupuncture, for example. Supplements. This section is fairly brief because we minimize the use of supplements on the GAPS protocol. I've included checkboxes for the basics of pure water, probiotics, cod liver oil, omega fats, and iodine, plus digestive supports, and then magnesium, since that's a very common addition. You might write in the dosage or number of pills if you want to be more detailed, or the brand or type of probiotic. In the write-in example, I listed vitamin C and 2+2 to indicate that 2 capsules were taken at 2 different times. Maybe you also include medications in this area, or homeopathy, or note when you're taking an antifungal or antiparasitic or a specific detox protocol. Or maybe you take what you take religiously, so there's no point in writing them down because it's always the same. In that case, skip it. This section is meant as a reminder for those who have a tendency to forget their supplements or for people who vary what they take and want to track that specifically. Food and drink. You can be as general or as granular as you want here. I like to track the time and what was eaten with amounts if it's something that's being worked up on or seems relevant for another reason. If you're working on gaining weight, noting the portion size might be appropriate. If you're working on better fat digestion, you may list that you included a certain amount of fats to that meal so that you can see how that increases over time. And then there's space for responses or reactions. Did you experience digestive symptoms? Was your stomach totally flat after this meal, and that's unusual? Did a rash or dandruff pop up? Flushing or red ears? Did you feel really satiated and happy? Did you get sleepy? Especially if you're someone who appears to have random reactions to foods, making detailed notes can be very telling over time. You might look back to see a pattern of eating too late in the day interfering with sleep, or eating too low fat or too low carb. Or you may share this data with a practitioner that helps you identify that you're experiencing issues with histamine, oxalates, or FODMAPs as they spot a common theme that you might not recognize. Okay, poop, a big topic for Gapsters. I included the Bristol scale in the Navigating Gaps daily journal, so you'll have that example to help you describe what's going on. This is super helpful when it comes to explaining your stool to practitioners as well. It goes from constipated pellets at number 1 to totally watery diarrhea at number 7, with the ideal smoothest kind of snake in the middle. If you're a 1 stool a day person, you may just circle the number and write down the time. But more commonly, people will write in times, Bristol numbers, and anything else of note. Was it easy? A particularly small or large quantity? Was it super stinky or a funny color? Did you strain? Did it feel incomplete? Did you have cramping? Did you notice undigested food or critters in it? Did you use a laxative or suppository? Maybe you did an enema of some type, so you write down those details here, even if you check that in the lifestyle section. And if you skip days, you can leave it blank or write in no. Detox baths. On the GAPS protocol, we're aiming to take these daily, so I added a section where you can circle the type you took and rotate through a different type each night. Apple cider vinegar is what ACV means. Clay is usually bentonite clay, but other types can be used. Magnesium chloride is also known as magnesium flakes. This one isn't recommended in the GAPS books, but I find it a nice addition for people with magnesium deficiency or sleep issues, as it's more gentle than Epsom salts, which also have magnesium. Sea salt can be any type of sea salt or dead sea salt. Seaweed can be kelp powder or any other powdered seaweed. Buying bulk is usually cheaper than the types that are marketed for baths in this case. And adults use a cup of each of these, except for seaweed, which a half a cup is enough of. And children use about half the adult amount, and babies a quarter to a third of the adult amount. Now, these are general goal amounts, of course, and you might need to start with a smaller amount if you experience too much detox. And for those of you who don't have bathtubs, you can use the same amount in a foot bath. I also consider swimming in the ocean or other natural bodies of water to be equivalent to a detox bath. So when I do that, I just make a written note here. Symptoms. This is a very personal area. I've included common categories, but please be as specific as you need. Rate them on a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being the most severe. In this example, I rated brain fog and joints, but listed a specific detail around arms tingling with that. I also wrote in eczema in the skin area and listed that it was underarm. There are many variations of each of these areas, so adapt them for you. Digestive can mean bloating, pain, gurgling, etc. Menstrual can mean PMS, cramping, hot flashes, or other stuff. And muscles can be all over tenderness or a specific area. Skin could be eczema, acne, hives, flushing, diaper rash, so on. Be as specific as needed, including in the additional notes section, especially if you have a hunch as to why something happened. In this example, I questioned if too much fruit yesterday had increased the eczema. The symptoms area is so important to look back on and compare to your food, supplements, lifestyle, etc., because you'll note patterns and things that would otherwise have seemed random. Cycles. This is the area that's most often overlooked that can be very telling. I include both menstrual and the literal moon phases here. It is so common that symptoms that appear random actually match up with the new or the full moon, or with a certain day or phase of the menstrual cycle, especially when it comes to changes in poop. This is another area that can be helpful to share with your practitioner if you see a pattern but don't quite understand why it's happening. Resilience, gratitude, and bedtime. I like to close out my day with a little reflection on the positives. Resilience is something I rate on a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being the highest positive. Attitude. We all know when we're taking life's ups and downs in stride and when our grumpiness isn't helping any situation. I like to note that here and find correlations with food and lifestyle practices. Digestion. Overall, how functional was your digestion today? Mental clarity. This can vary a lot on GAPS, and often it starts low and builds up over time. And this is another thing that can correlate with the other sections. And then physical energy. Nearly always something GAPsters are wanting to see brought up. Rate it and watch for patterns or celebrate the increases. In the gratitude or additional notes section, you have the opportunity to write down a few specific things that you're grateful for on this very day, no matter how small. This practice, especially before bed, is so helpful in resetting your mind's patterning to look for some good rather than dwelling on all that went wrong. If gratitude isn't your thing, or you just need more space for other stuff, use these lines to make any other notes. And then finally, write down your bedtime, maybe with notes on your wind down routine, things that kept you from getting into bed when you wanted, or things that helped you to get to sleep. Examples might be meditation, a cup of tea, those blue light blocking glasses, reading, or screens off at a certain time. I usually write this part the next morning when I wake, as I don't keep my journal in my bedroom. This is an overview of the 30-day reflection section in the Navigating GAPS Daily Journal. I include a reminder of the areas and details you've been tracking, with some free writing space after each, plus additional lined pages after these. You can highlight, circle, or underline the things you've engaged in and then make notes. I usually write a few highlights from memory, then flip back through my 30 days to see what connections I might make. I'm always surprised to see how much I've already forgotten and how time flies. Things that seemed like a couple of days ago happened 18 days ago, or a symptom I thought was terrible most of the month had really just kicked up in the past 4 days, so it was top of mind. The extra line pages give you more space for details or a snapshot of how you feel now. You can note your big wins, any area you want to focus on for the next 30 days, or experiments you're going to run. The 90-day reflection is where you can free write notes about what's changed overall, looking back at each 30-day reflection to gather up any themes you've spotted. Flip back to the goals page at the beginning of the journal and rate your symptoms again to see what's changed. What tends to happen is that we find clarity on many things, but still have 1 to 2 sticking points. These are what we can take to practitioners for help. Having another set of eyes or someone with experience will help us find the connections. Of course, the GAPS protocol is generally followed for 1.5 to 2 years overall, so this 90 days was just a start. You'll continue to journal and refine your process and reach for new milestones in your health journey. If you'd like to connect with me, you can do so through bodywisdomnutrition.com. I have many resources that will help make GAPS easier for you, including over 150 blog posts related to the GAPS lifestyle. I also have a shop where I sell the Navigating GAPS Daily Journal and my Picky Eater book for parents called From Mac and Cheese to Veggies Please. And there you'll also have access to booking a one-on-one client session with me for a personalized GAPS protocol. Thank you for your dedication to the life-changing hard work of implementing the GAPS protocol. I hope what I've shared today helps you navigate through GAPS confidently and more successfully.